All right, and we go straight to looking at the papers, coupling it up with that piece by Musa Salah, Quest for the Mountain. And, you know, a couple of speakers there highlighting the fact that the Deputy President has been able to, you know, just make inroads at the Mount Kenya, successful for that matter. We have Honorable Jeremiah Kioni, Member of Parliament of Ndaragwa, to tell us whether he agrees with such statements. We also have the DG of Kisii County, Honorable Joash Maangi, for the same, and we are hoping to get a loop of Honorable, that is Farah Maalim, who is the current deputy chair for Wiper Party, so that they can tell us their view on this. Remember, it's a quest for the mountain. Appears to be the beautiful girl that every other, you know, presidential hopeful wishes to woo. Just how successful are they? And the biggest question today then would be, Mount Kenya for Right Honorable Raila Odinga or Mount Kenya for Deputy President William Ruto? Because evidently the likes of Musalia Mudavadi have also, you know, just made sure that they've set their time to go and tour the mountain, but theirs is not as successful as it appears for these other individuals, or at least they do not appear to have so much chance in comparison to Right Honorable Raila Odinga and Deputy President William Ruto. We have constantly seen them trying to woo the mountain. We have seen Right Honorable Raila Odinga the other day at the Mount Kenya region alongside Honorable Jeremiah Kioni, and these are the gentlemen that are taking him to the mountain. Others are asking, where is President Uhuru Kenyatta to take him? Do they go there representing President Uhuru Kenyatta? All these answers, we get them this morning. The Deputy Governor of Meru says Ruto is evidently popular in the mountain. If we are to look at that statement and this particular story that has been captured on page 2 of the People Daily, senior officials fighting my State House bid, says Deputy President William Ruto. This after he toured the mountain, and yesterday it wasn't all rosy. Some level of intolerance made it upon him by, of course, rogue individuals or the public. You know, what does that speak? Speaks of a person who's indeed, you know, managed to woo the mountain, or vice versa, Honorable Kioni?
Let me start by saying good morning to the viewers and appreciating my being invited to this studio this morning. I do not take it for granted. It's a privilege, it's an honor. I also want to take the other opportunity to also condole with many families in Laikipia that are really having difficulties. And I tell you, it's really unfortunate that we have some of the things actually we saw back in the 2007. The difficulties of 2007 started this way.
That's true.
And Laikipia, the area called Ormoran, was one of the epicenters. I was a resident in a neighboring farm. I think the area is called Moteto.
Yeah.
And I can tell you that what we are seeing today is not encouraging at all. We certainly would want a statement from the government. How I wish these were the older days when we had ministers in parliament. We would have been able to put them on the spot.
On the spot, right.
But we would have to make do with what we have by using the committee system to try and get answers there. But it is very unfortunate. Families, people are really sleeping in the bush. 2-3 days ago, there were some 2 young people who had been abducted. You can imagine abductions in our country at this time and age. I know the security personnel has gone there, but I know the governor is pitching camp for the whole of this week. He is going to be in that area to try and make sense out of it. But it is an issue that requires the attention of the whole public. When people are killing one another at any point in our country, anywhere, you know, you wake up and you go to kill your neighbor. It's something that is not right, and we should actually be very scared about it. And that feeds into what we have.
Right.
Because those kind of tensions, if heightened by the political activities that are there, if people go there and then take different political positions and decisions that they make are influenced by their political persuasion, then you are not likely to get some sense out of it. And it is for that reason that you have to be very careful with even the difficulties like we saw yesterday. When we see some of these political crashes happening in our country, it worries me.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who is popular, who is not popular. At this given point, what is important is that if there is no peace, whether you win or you don't, it is not going to be a good thing for the country.
Right.
And I think what we should be looking at and what we should be encouraging, and especially those in the churches, is to use every opportunity to bring people together. Don't host me to hit at the other. No, use your pulpit to try and broker peace in our country.
In the country.
So I know there will be issues of popularity, the contests that are going to be there. But I can tell you, like I can see one of the readers has said in one of these papers, for any political development, it says that peace and unity are fundamentals.
Yeah.
If we want any movement in our country, and I agree.
All right, well, you decided to jump the gun, but all the same, I'm glad that you're addressing the key things that are here. Now, of course, I'll throw this question back to you. As we talk of conversations on popularity and everything, you know, statements as this coming from Deputy President William Ruto, and evidently what we saw over the weekend in regards to, you know, some few individuals, you know, mating some level of intolerance, animosity, in as much as we all agree that democratically it's okay to differ. Does it have to get to such levels?
Linda, first and foremost, let me also say good morning to everybody, and thank you for inviting me here. Let me first and foremost concur with Honorable Kioni that we're heading to the wrong direction. When you see statements like this one which you have put there by the Deputy President, it depicts a divided government. And when we say a divided government, we are being polite. Actually, the proper word is a failed government. And it's extremely, extremely unfortunate. So some of us grew up during the Moi era, and children used to go to school and drink milk freely.
Right.
There was no insecurity. Even those who practiced cattle rustling, it was not that dangerous. I come from Kisii, and the Kisii used to have cattle rustling between Kisiis and Maasais. But I'll tell you, during my entire life, I can count the number of people who died in that process. Very few people. But now when you look at Laikibia, that within a week you have lost 10, 15 people, where are we headed? When it is unsafe for children to go to school, when it's unsafe for a parent to send a daughter to go buy kiberiti in a nearby shop, when it's unsafe for people to sleep in their own houses, that is not the time for politicians to fight. It's not the time for us to fight. It is time for the President of this Republic, His Excellency Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, to put aside advice from the hardliners in his government and tell them, no, I made peace with my opponent, Raila Amolo Odinga. I can also make peace with my deputy. That probably would be the best thing to do.
Right.
It is time for the Deputy President to stop listening to hardliners in his camp and tell them, no, Kenya is bigger than all of us. We must come back together and solve the issues bedeviling our country. I believe the time is now for us to stop as leaders. We must ask ourselves, what's good for this country? I mean, what are we doing? We are killing each other. I mean, I grew up in a peaceful Kenya where I went to school comfortably, went to high school, went to university, got a job. Now, what legacy are we leaving to our children? My son is in the university now. What am I living with it for him? Because my father left me a good legacy, a good Kenya. What am I leaving for my children? For my children. I think it is time for leaders to come together. And I want to agree again with the Kioni, Kioni, that when people go to church, let us go to church to worship. Let us go to church to fellowship. Let us not go there to show mighty.
Yeah.
Just imagine, I think yesterday there was people by God's grace that we didn't have deaths. People could have died. Why are we doing this? Where is Kenya headed? Where is Kenya headed?
Right.
I think it is time for us to have a conversation. Uhuru, the president, said that there was a constitutional moment during the BBI crusades. I think this is the time for Uhuru Kenyatta to come out and say this is a Kenya moment where all of us must come together, put our differences aside, and fight for our country.
Well, we speak of this quest for democracy and change, Honorable Farah Maalim, and one would look at it as though we have really had a democratic space that we overlook the importance of such, that we are overdoing things. If Honorable Maangi would recall the former times, and equate them to what we're having today, at a point where we're saying that we are making changes, but it appears that the scenario gets even tougher. The days become darker. Why does it have to go to such levels? I mean, looking at the papers, the People Daily speaks of bishops who seek to reconcile President Uhuru Kenyatta and Ruto. I'm just trying to look at the face of the church and maybe not to delve deep into it in comparison to the face of the mosque. Do you suppose there is so much hypocrisy coming from the side of religion in terms of how we're dealing with matters, politics in the country?
And the problem in this country is that if we think every time we have a political disagreement between a few big wigs, then it's an opportunity for communities to rise up against one another, and to deny that a space called democracy itself a space, or the principle called democracy a space, in which everybody is allowed to go and campaign in the four corners of the country and go for elections and have his or her votes counted and accept the results of that election without any hanky-panky business. Then we will live in a country which is going to be controlled by what you call ethnic or regional warlords. If I were, you have to have a security machinery, a civil service in the country that is independent from the political shenanigans of the moment. We cannot legislate, or we cannot create or force a camaraderie or an understanding or a very closeness or a love, if I may call, for lack of a better word, between two people, the president and his deputy. This is their own choices. If one of them is convinced that the other one is not working with him, and he will work with other external forces, those are democratic and constitutional rights. Now everybody in the country must know that you work within the law. And anybody who does not work within the law then will face the full force of the law itself. And I think the earlier we begin putting those things straight to every Kenyan, the better for this country. Because tomorrow if I have issues, then I will start creating a problem between my people and the neighboring people. And then very soon you will begin wondering, people talking about the post-election violence of 2007. I already had some very reckless, careless, and frankly, criminal statements from some people that if we don't do ABCD, then we have other options of actions available to us that we can exploit. In other words, saying that we will go to war. Now, you can't have a country that's going to be held hostage by by people who are politicians, but who think they can convert themselves into some kind of warlords. The security machinery in the country must be able to investigate thoroughly and exhaustively what is happening in there. And if there is a political intonations or political dimensions to that, then make sure that those people are brought to book, regardless of what their status in the country is. Bring them to book and make sure that the rule of law is maintained. The rule of law cannot be compromised, or rather cannot become hostage to political shenanigans and political differences of the moment. So this personally, we created the Constitution 2010. We created an independent police service. We created an independent judiciary and all those other institutions of the government or arms of the government and independent bodies, so that we created a national cohesion. The idea was that people cannot use politics in the manner in which they used it or exploited it in 2007 and even the years before that. So that will not happen. If that were to continue, then we'll have an element of ethnic regions, and progressively we will become something I would not be too happy to see happen in this country. This is a fairly integrated country where every Kenyan lives in every corner of this country that he wishes to live in, and he thinks he can make his livings. Now, these developments right now, which I think are occasioned by certain political gimmicks, and most likely, and in the very likelihood that there are politicians behind these things, must be brought to an end.
And true to it, probably just to loop you in, Honorable Jeremiah Kioni, we've heard what Honorable Kiraitu Murungi speaks of, reminds the people of the mountain that, it's us that painted Right Honorable Raila Odinga a bad person because we had interest then. We now come back to you to tell you that he's actually not a bad person. Those were just, political shenanigans and all that. In this quest of saying that let's have these two individuals come and work together, the aspect of celebrating unity, redemption, and, people who've had political differences coming together. I mean, it could be a good thing, but does it then weigh down the gains that we made democratically? Does it then weigh the aspect of upholding the rule of law down? Because if these two gentlemen were to work together and, overlook what maybe either of them has done to fold or to flow what we are expected to do, legally, the rule of law, constitutionally, then it means that we are making strides that don't appear to be so good, and therefore we might not have people coming to book or being brought to book, as Honorable Farah Maalim would say, simply because, well, they're in the good books with the person who would have taken them, to account for what they have not done, or accountability.
The case of the DP and his boss, the president, is a little different. It's actually not a little different. It's very different. Because in the case of the deputy president and the president, it's a case of insubordination. It's rebellion from within. You are derailing my agenda. It is not a question of we didn't compete. The issue of reaching out to Raila was different. That was a political opponent on the other camp, the other side of the political divide in the country, and you are reconciling two. This one of the DP is a pure case of a person who's gone the long way. You are in a classroom and you decided to just heckle everybody. You don't want anybody to run, and the exams are near, and because again exams may not go your way, you instigate a strike in the country or in the school so that people don't sit for exams. You've seen it in secondary schools, and I see that that's what the DP is doing, and it's a big minus on his position, and he should learn from others who have been there before. You cannot be a deputy, you rebel against your boss, work against him, work against the development agenda for 4 years, and expect to go anywhere. And I want to tell you that I don't know how much we need to advise, because we have said this before. If I see Kijuri saying that the mountain has ice, and it's true.
Right at the top.
Yes, you are likely to come down tumbling badly, and I really sympathize with what he is doing. And I am telling you from deep inside, he will live to regret this. He will be abandoned by the people of Mount Kenya. He will never believe it. We hate people who bring war to our doorsteps.
And do you think he's brought war?
He has.
How?
If you see people behaving the way they are and you want to get votes from that region, you don't go.
Oh yeah?
I do not go to fight. I don't go looking for votes in my own constituency if I think there will be a confrontation. If you are seen,
I mean, the allegations are that these people
forget
have
about
been
the
bought.
allegations. Forget about, in fact, I take it that they had been bought.
Okay.
And
Why
they
do
were
they
there
accept?
waiting, and they were there waiting to beat him up.
Okay.
If he was a leader, a gentleman, he would not have gone, because in the beating up, ordinary people suffer.
He did not expect that anyway.
No, they are saying they knew. Listen to
Generally,
them.
politically, you'd expect that people
Now,
will be bought. Any member of parliament.
Reader. I was there and I bumped on the entourage.
Yes.
When they were heading to Karatina. That must have been on Friday or something, because I was coming to Nairobi and I met them at a place called Kivirigwi. Kivirigwi is where we have a big market for farm produce, and women and men have a very good outlet for their, and we also stop there to buy. And I can tell you that I have a record of what they were doing. I don't want to go into it. So when I'm talking to you and talking to the people, I am telling you that if what you know will happen happens, let him not think that will be betrayal. It is in keeping with the character of the people of the mountain. You will not, let me just conclude this. What he is doing, if you want to win votes, and I'm advising even aspirants, if you want votes in that region, and you get a person who is up against you, who fights, don't ever go near him. The two of you will be thrown out. It does not matter whether you are the bishop and the other one is a pagan. If the two of you are fighting daily, that thing, and I went to Ndaragwa in a nearby church, if that kind of atmosphere is what was left, let me tell you, because I was there way after, in the evening, people are saying, we don't want this maneno. The biashara people are saying, what was this? So the majority of the people who are left behind are the ones who are saying, hatutaki maneno. Why are you running around in front of our shops throughout the day? That is not useful at all. And I would expect the president, the deputy president at his level, unless he snookered himself into that high office, to have understood some of these things. I'm shocked, I'm surprised.
You know,
that those mistakes
I'm trying
were
to,
committed.
Yeah.
Were committed. You know, you are, even if the state is up against you, what is new? It has been there before. Others have seen.
You want
the
to tell me
before.
the allies are not bright enough to read the mood and to understand what the
but
people...
But you also know the Bible also says that you can be led into that path.
And so this...
all the way to the end until you go nowhere.
Let's have Honorable Maangi come in. And we are looking forward to a Kenya where we're going to get the environment conducive for every other individual to come and sell their bid.
As you go to him, remember this photo brief. Here. I've just seen a photo here, Maangi, and I see, is it Kisii Dogo? You know, we want to move away from this issue. And I can
before we move away, well, as you look for the photo, let Honorable Maangi weigh in on this. Because
it is here. This is the same photo I saw for Kiaba. Not the same photo, but I saw a woman wail the same way, Kiaba 2007. The day when the church was being burned.
That's true.
These are not good images.
That is a photo on the Daily Nation. We'll get that photo.
Was moving out of the church when she was exactly almost, I don't know, it looks very bad.
Well, Honorable Maangi, if you may come in on this, and we say that we seek to have a conducive ground for every individual to come and sell their agenda to the people and proceed to step out. In the event that the people do not like it, there are amicable ways of dealing with this. So when we see such intolerance and advice coming from the likes of Honorable Kioni, that you know what, abstain from going to those directions. What does it speak of the democratic space? What does it speak of a united Kenya? What does it speak of a Kenya where we wish to get an individual who serves the nation as opposed to a certain region?
Linda, it speaks of a country that is stimuling democracy. It speaks of a country that is keen to manufacture chaos in its own borders. And it speaks, it's a despicable situation. And that's why I started by condemning it and saying, this is not the country, this is not the Kenya we want to leave to our children. Kioni has identified this picture. It's in Laikipia. It's not Kisii Ndogo.
Yeah.
No, they are calling. Read the story.
Yes, it's Kisii Ndogo like
Oh, it's Kisii Ndogo, eh?
The 50 families that were affected are...
Some 50 houses in Kisii Ndogo. Yes, yes,
They call
It's
it
called,
Kisii Ndogo.
yes,
Thank you.
they call it
I've not
Kisii
seen it.
Ndogo.
Kisii Ndogo in Laikipia. Now, if you remember when I started speaking, I said we used to have this cattle rustling between Maasais and Kisis.
Right.
But I can count the number of people who died. Not more than 5. My entire life. But now, you go to Laikipia, Kisii Ndogo, and you're killing 15 people at one go. Now, why is it called Kisii Ndogo? Because there are Kisis living there. Isn't it? When you talk about Kisumu Ndogo in Nairobi, because Kisis are Luos are living
Majority,
in.
yes.
Now, if we as Kisis, who are a medium tribe, we're not very small, but we're also not very big. But we are fairly enterprising. You go to Laikipia, you find Kisii Ndogo. You go to Nakuru, we have a member of parliament.
Yes.
Arama. That's because we have over 152,000 Kisis living in Nakuru. You go to Mombasa, we have 70,000 registered voters, Kisis, in Mombasa. You go to Trans Nzoia, we have over 47,000 registered Kisis, voters in Trans Nzoia. You come to Nairobi here, we are looking at close to 200,000 registered voters. So we are a community that has been fairly dispersed. We are everywhere in this country. They say, other than the Kikuyus, it is the Kisis who also come next in terms of dispersal. We are everywhere. And that's why some of us feel threatened. We panic when we see things like this happening, because these are our people who are going to be killed. We do not want this to happen. We must appeal. That's why we must appeal to our leaders. We must have a Kenya moment. We must have a Kenya moment. No, this must stop. This must stop.
How does it stop? How does it stop, Honorable Farah Maalim, when we say that evidently, well, the people of the mountain do not need individuals that would trigger war down there. Yet they're the very same people who are actually being bought, if at all they were bought, looking at what we saw over the weekend, so that they would scaffold, the tours of different political leaders. And I mean, Mudavadi toured this particular region. Such was not experienced. Right Honorable Raila Odinga has toured this particular region. Such was not experienced. Why, at a point when the Deputy President William Ruto is coming there?
You know, Linda, when you go out to campaign, even in your constituency back at home, and you go to the village where your opponent came from, and then you go and the first thing you do is you castigate his management of public affairs there, and you call him all sorts of names.
Okay.
They will not take too kindly to that. You have to do it in such a manner as to show people options, show people choices by saying so-and-so has done a very good job. I do have a different approach to development, and this is how I intend to do it. I appreciate, or we appreciate, what so-and-so has done for us. But when you go out there and all you do is castigate the government that you were solidly part of, if not the most important principle, because in the first 5 years of the Ruto government here, the deputy was not number 2. He was literally the face of that institution, or that what they call presidency, and he was doing it almost to the exclusion of his own friend. So I think to some extent people are getting a bit sick and tired of that name calling of the man who is basically the CEO of the country. And that's what Ruto has lately taken to. He's somebody who cannot hide his disappointment. He's somebody who cannot hide his anger. And then he's also toying with very, very dangerous areas for anybody to, even in that what you call camouflage of democracy, to venture into, which is wealth redistribution, not wealth creation, wealth redistribution, in which you say, we will make sure that the poor people get what has been taken from them by the rich people. Now that is a very progressive and It's a society that is the most endowed in terms of economics in the country. And many of them, 95% of them or 99% of them have made that through hard work. So when you come out there and you get that person gets the impression that his 500 acres or 600 acres is going to be seized from him if this administration changes in favor of the deputy president and to be redistributed to people who never worked for it, it creates, you begin creating so many enemies within the society. It's not necessarily the big man there. I mean, it's everybody there will try and stop you. So to some extent, I think the manner in which the deputy president is trying to sell his campaign is very different from the manner in which Mudavadi is trying to sell. Oh, Kalonzo, if you go, when you went out there, we went out there with Kalonzo. We have been told a lot of things that time, including people shouting at us right in the face and telling us, no, we're going for the wheelbarrow. But all we did was just sit down and reason with them. And progressively, as we continued, the mood started changing. So we didn't go out there to name call or to go and rubbish somebody else. Or we didn't go there. We didn't go on a mission of hate. We went there on a mission of prosperity and showing Kenyans the difference and sitting down with the people. So those are the kind of ways in which you can win the hearts and the minds of Kenyans, not through confrontation, not through demonizing the very policies that you executed yourself for 5 good years to the exclusion of everybody else, and now you want to blame it on other people. You want to blame it on the principal, who is Uhuru, and a lot of other things. There's serious debates going on there right now, in which man is creating class wars in the region and the wider country. So it's a problem, and those are the problems that people don't want to see. I come from, just like the mountain people and the Kisiis, I come from a society that's also endowed when it comes to entrepreneurship. And we work in every corner of the country. And it worries us. To be honest to you, everybody you see gets worried because he doesn't know how it's going to turn out. When you live
Farah, let's fix your audio a bit because it's a bit low. We're not able to get that. But just picking it up on the same.
Yes. Yes.
And maybe loop in Honorable Maangi, the sympathizer of the DP, or a person who probably buys into his style, into his ideology and what he presents to the people of Kenya today. Do you agree with what Honorable Farah Maalim speaks of? You know, his system of campaign as one that is not so friendly?
But you want to bypass me, before you bypass me, mine will be brief.
All right.
So that you bypass me. I just wanted to say that, the style of campaigns.
Yes.
I asked a question.
Yes.
As a deputy president, you certainly have some measure of intelligence available to you, and you'd know when an area is likely to become volatile.
Right.
As a national leader, you have to avoid the area for the sake of the people you want to lead.
And how then
so
do
that
you get
you
to
do
win
not,
these votes?
yes, there we come, so that you do not bring violence on the people. Remember, the who will eventually suffer are even those who are not concerned with those campaigns. Women and children are the ones who are likely to suffer. They are not the ones who will ever show up in a violent scenario. Why occasion that violence on them? And when you have to avoid that, that's very, very important. 2, at this time, you must change the style. We have COVID-19. We've been told that once you're in meetings, in political rallies, and they are not actually even allowed in the country, you become a super spreader. Wait until after 2 weeks. Go and do a survey in Narumoro area. All the areas where these meetings happened. Look at the spread of COVID in those areas. In Nyeri today, we are barring over 200 and something, 50, 65 people per week. We've killed more people through COVID than the number of people who died from the 2007 crashes. DP Ruto must stop occasioning this COVID thing in our area. He visits and it does. And as I heard of, again, going back to this Laikipia, it's no point of beating about the bush. The 2 communities that are being evicted from Oromora are Kikuyus and Kisiis, Pokots and Tugens. are on the firing end. They are the ones hitting these people.
Okay.
As leaders, the best that we can do is to avoid sparking other confrontations in other areas. It's not useful. We have difficulties economically. You need to come up with a strategy that helps you campaign for 2022 that does not bring unnecessary tension.
How then do we silently, okay, no, I don't know
You
whether we
can
call
do
it
that.
silently address it without, because I mean, here we are and it's not getting any rosy. So how do we silently do this without, first of all, also appearing as though we are trying to incite the individuals down on ground? Because I mean, such utterances will definitely get people to
When
the
the
level
people
of
in
worry.
Laikipia, and I say this and so that the deputy governor, whom I respect, and I really like what he say, I hope the people of Kisii are watching. They should look at the quality of the person than anything else. If I can just say this, what happens is that when anger is, and now can see on the same page, the hunters are headed for pastures and water crashes. You can see there is some crashes, natural because of the need for water, and needs to be sorted out administratively. This kind of crashes, you can actually understand them and see, can the county government go there with water boosters? Can they go drill boreholes? What can we do quickly to sort out this kind of thing? But when you have this, you have that in Laikipia, you have something happening in Arumoro, and another. That is how it happened in 2007. And all other, we are saying, irrespective of the political position one is occupying, it is a time to sober up. If you really love this country, and you love the people of this country, and you can see the economic hardship they are going through, and you desire to get them out of that problem, that should be your first thing, not your greed for power. The greed for power, irrespective, should be. Wait
a minute, as we call on the DP to stop this, I'd love for you to explain to us the tour of Right Honorable Raila Odinga in central Kenya alongside you. What would you equate that to? Is it not as much as what it is that the DP did?
I will tell you what that was, and you notice what happened with the Raila. I don't know whether you're talking of yesterday or the other.
No, the other time that you were with him in central.
We went to a church, a small church. With social distancing, and the address was in the church. As he was coming out, there was a crowd right outside the gate, which he addressed. All the other people who were lined up the way, he refused completely to show up. He told us, everybody back to Nairobi. We came, kila mtu. He had that discipline, knowing who Raila is and the way he likes crowd. But I was amazed with the discipline. He said, I'm not addressing anybody. We have in this situation, we must be concerned of the people's welfare more than the desire to just campaign.
What if the DP were to make such adjustments?
Sorry?
What if the DP were to make such adjustments?
We will be very happy.
And proceed to the
Let
other.
me tell you, that is what needs to be done. And that's what we're asking of him now. Make those adjustments. Make your campaign, do your campaign, and don't kill us through COVID. I can't attend the case, the barriers. I can't even help. The bills in hospitals, the number of people who've died in Ndaragwa, and it's just an example, makes me, I can't even concentrate on 2022. It is, how do we deal with these issues? Honestly, if the 2022 clouds your point that you cannot even see people dying, you don't deserve to be.
Why is it that the government then is not, it's not taking action as we would have expected?
Because immediately the government will do that,
yes,
sympathy seekers will be on the rooftop of cars.
But it's in the public.
See, we are being denied, and I say no more. Are
we okay to loop in Honorable Maangi?
Yes. Linda.
Mr. Director? All right, yes, proceed.
Linda, your question was direct. As a friend of the deputy president, do I support his
and there is no enemy.
Campaign?
There's no enemy.
There's no enemy. Honorable Farah Maalim is always clear that yes, Honorable Farah Maalim will tell you he's an enemy. I don't know.
Do I support this style of campaign?
No.
That is
not an enemy, right? Sorry.
No.
That's a very interesting question.
All right, yes.
And I will try to answer it as honest as I can. You know, Honorable Kioni, and he's a man I have a lot of respect for, very sober man.
Yeah.
As indicated that yesterday he was in Ndaragwa and he saw what happened. So he saw people preparing to cause mayhem. I guess he meant both sides.
At least that's what he
Yes.
said. He's not going to tell us exactly what happened. So
Exactly.
we read so much.
Yes.
For us is to read what he's not said.
Yes. So the question one will ask himself, if people are preparing to stop Deputy President Ruto from going to meet people, be it in the mountain or elsewhere, what do you want him to do? Because if he does not go there, then he has given in. Then he has given up.
Yeah.
And then he has lost. Because politics is about people. You must go and meet people. So if there's a deliberate effort to stop him from wanting to address the people of the mountain, then he must decide either to go there or to stop looking for presidency. So that's a very difficult question. But, there's also a saying which you spoke about, Kiraitu Murungi telling people that we lied to you about Raila Amolo Odinga. If I were Kiraitu, I would not say that. Because he's accepting that he was inciting people against Raila Amolo Odinga. What has changed? I mean, it speaks volumes of you when you come and say that we lied to you.
Right.
So why would I trust you now? Why would I trust you now? So this kind of incitement, that Kiraitu, Murungi and the rest were doing against
Raila
Amolo Odinga is
equally be the
probably
same.
is what the Kionis are doing against the
DP.
The DP.
Okay.
So you must decide, do you accept, do you let go, or do you go there and confront? But, and I say a very big but, there's a lot of meaning and value in what Kioni says, that if you know there will be chaos where you are going, there may be value in you avoiding. Because at the end of the day, as a politician, my success to be elected as governor, my success to be elected as member of parliament, my success to be elected as president should not be worth any Kenyan life.
Yes.
It is wrong for me to walk through any one Kenyan's blood to become president. It's wrong to walk through any Kenyan's blood to become governor or MP or senator. So there's a lot of value in what Kioni is saying, that if you are aware that there won't be chaos where I'm going, there may be value in saying, hey, must I be president?
Right.
While these people are dying?
Yeah.
Must I be governor when these people are dying? So it is a time for us to do a lot of introspection. That's why I said it is time for the deputy president to look into the advice from his hardliners and probably find a way to avoid this kind of situations. It's also time for the president to move away from his hardliners and find a way of accommodating the deputy president. Because for me, one life is too important. One life is too big to be lost on the altar of political success.
Well put. Honorable Farah Maalim, you want to skip? You want us to skip Honorable Farah Maalim?
No, I was welcoming him in and saying that the president has no adrenaline. He went shaking hands all over. He cannot.
There you go, Honorable Farah Maalim. As you respond to him, the Wafugaji regions, the hardest regions, and we saw you people holding this crucial meeting. Speaking of how then you want to make sure that these places are well safe and protected, and you are also getting a chance on the table to echo your sentiments. A majority are regions that have appeared to be marginalized, and I don't know whether it's appear or it's actually regions that have been marginalized. And we speak of herders, certainly, when they're headed in search of pasture and water, and then the clashes arise in different regions. Clashes. These are regions that are vulnerable to these clashes. What do you speak? What does it take for us to make sure that, now that we acknowledge we have a problem, before it gets out of hand, we're able to address these problems?
Yeah, Linda, this country has never been livestock, traditional or local livestock agricultural sector from the time we got independence. From the time we got independence, we never had adequate policies to assist our own traditional farmers in the livestock sector. This what they call high-grade milk farmers or beef farmers, the ones who are using ranches in other parts of the country, have always had it easier. But for us, we have the government or successive governments in this country have never been able to accommodate our own needs in this. That's why we talk of being marginalized all the time. As Kioni had put it, in this dry season right now, the country must be on some kind of a serious alert, and a kind of an emergency must be declared in which the government helps in taking pasture and water to the livestock farmers, because they might end up losing hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of livestock in the country, which is going to be bad because it then creates a poverty on a massive scale within the ranks of those people. So to the extent of the problems right now between herders and farmers and access to water and access to pasture and the rest of it, I think it's a serious matter that the government must begin dealing with by taking hay to a lot of these areas and by making sure that there are sufficient boreholes in certain areas so that these livestock are saved. Having said that, we've come together ourselves. Finally, after almost 60 years, we're coming together right now to be there on they say, if you're not on the table of the banquet, then you are on the menu. So we've always been on the menu for all these years. This time around, we wish to be there to be part of the moving and shaking of this country's destiny and future in a manner that also is going to guarantee us, or is going to solidify and our own rights and interests in many areas in the fields of education. You've had the kind of things that happen in this country. We have one lady called Nancy Macharia in TSC who thinks that this country ends up within what we call the high potential areas. Every time there's a small incidents of violence or insecurity in the north, she withdraws all the teachers to the extent of thousands, and then employs more again from other communities and not the northern community, and then does the same thing also. We've just basically been on the menu in this country for far too long in every sector. So we are trying to come together right now so that we then also can claim our stake and get what should have been rightfully ours from the beginning. Unfortunately, I can tell you, very, very unfortunately, in many centers, many power centers right now, people who are either in power or people who are rooting for power have never been able to divorce their mindset from the sessional paper number 10 of 1965, which was intensification of the government's expenditure and inputs into the high potential areas as opposed to the sparsely populated area potential at the time, or as opposed to that. Because with modern what do you call technologies, you can turn northern Kenya and you can into the breadbasket of this country with the right irrigation and the right resources being put in there. They tried a bit with the Kulalu ranch, Galana Kulalu ranch, and all they did was just to use it as a conduit to steal the money. I'm talking about this Jubilee regime now. So they do it now for the last time, or for the first time. The people from the pastoralist areas are coming together, and I think there will be we will put our stake. We'll put our stake in a very significant manner, even if to different entities right now. But that actually is going to be a clarion call all over the country for the pastoralists also to have a fair share in this country's future.
All right. But well, gentlemen, allow us to take a quick break, and then we come pick some, some of the feedback that we're getting right here, and then we loop you in to, tell us what you wish to say. But even as we go for that break, someone reminds you of the fact that you did not vote for Madividi at that point when you were his deputy. Now, probably today we get an exclusive moment of truth. You'll tell us whether you voted for him or not.
I wouldn't want to. I have always, let me say this before you go for break. That those are statements that come from people who have nothing in between the ears.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Because they say you're lecturing the DP so much so.
There are people without anything between the ears are the ones who keep going on the same narrative. I advise you to...
History is bad. History will always come back for you, especially.
If you want to be sued, I sued and I was paid.
All right.
So I say people without anything between the ears are the ones who remain on that narrative. Because they have nothing else to say. Yes. All
right, we take a quick break and we come back and discuss more on what is happening politically in the country. Welcome back to the broadcast. Still discussing what is taking center stage politically in the country, the wish for presidential hopefuls to woo Mount Kenya, and that quest by religious leaders to see President Uhuru Kenyatta again working, of course, in tandem with his deputy. And of course, briefly, if we're told we're going to get time, we look at the legal battle that is set on matters BBI, as IEBC, alongside the Attorney General now seek to challenge the Appellate's court ruling at the level of Supreme Court, and so much more. Of course, your feedback being welcomed hugely. But before we let go of Honorable Jeremiah Kioni, who has to exit the stage briefly for a meeting, I think it's only fair that we allow him to weigh in to the subjects of the day. And as we say, kindly desist from discussing this that were bygones. You cannot purport to speak on his behalf while he is here.
Unless you're interested in being sued. Give me your full details. If you are man or woman enough to say such a statement, give us your full details so that we can sue you. And I wouldn't mind getting some more money
millions out
from
of
the people who think they can give me some money. I wouldn't mind. I need petrol to do my campaigns. And I actually want to advise people. I was paid a lot of money for those lecherous statements. They are really idle. You cannot remain on. It's the same propaganda team. We have had people feed us on propaganda for the last 4 years. And now you can see how difficult it becomes, even for the DP, to try and get going when you bring the truth to the front.
Okay.
And I can tell you, the people who keeps talking about the voting from Davadi 2013 are the same kind of Farahs. They are still the same camp. You'll find many of them will be in the same camp of propaganda. And I, again, want to advise them. There are things you can say and things that can cost you heavily. Because if I just take the tweet, that is enough for me to just get you listed among those who paid me. But I wanted to say this. Farah mentioned Kulala Garanu Ranch. And it reminded me that Mutara Ranch is an ADC farm in Laikipia. Unfortunately, one of the farms that was listed as belonging to the deputy president. It benefits my residents in an area called Suguroi, in an area called Subego, in an area called Gamini. And it is true that the watering points were actually demolished in the presence of APs under instructions. The cadres in that area are suffering to date. That was done 2 years ago. So when I see members of parliament saying that these things are not accurate, they are very accurate. And we will present that evidence in Bunge when needs due. That land needs to go back to the people. Okay. They need to benefit. The cows are dying daily. Why take away the land from the poor people, from the hustlers that you're actually wanting to help? Okay. It's unfortunate. And when you're still on the same, I go to page 12 of this is National Standard. The Standard. You see that Wairia, who is also doing a presidential campaign, his team was blocked from entering Ndaragwa yesterday. Why? Because of the COVID. And it's not the time to do the kind of campaigns you are doing. This is a COVID area. This is a COVID hotspot. You cannot come in. Now, you see, we didn't get of it. If this was done to the DP, sympathy all over. It will be the headline, DP blocked. So, to avoid the kind of thing, the government is also holding back. And when they hold back from stopping people from doing the kind of campaigns that the DP did yesterday at Narumoro, COVID spreads. People die. So become an agent of death. And this is unfortunate. But we need to tell people, please stop this. Finally, on the issue of the appeal at the court of Supreme Court. As the Supreme Court is considering the appeal on the issues of BBI, they should have in mind the case of Guinea, where a coup was staged yesterday.
The government denies that.
Yes, they may go back. I'll be happy if the government can be able to take over.
Yeah.
There's nothing as unfortunate as a coup because of the difficulties that comes with it. But I want to say this. The constitution that is difficult to amend it becomes easy to dissolve the constitution, to overthrow the constitution. We must avoid that route that we are being taken by our courts.
Okay.
Do not make it impossible for us to ever deal with the issues that we think we need to deal with them in the constitution. You will be opening avenues for others. And when those avenues are opened for others, you will still look for politicians to get political solutions to the difficulties that were brought around by the judiciary. Judicial dictatorship ushers in military coups.
Do you equate this to the judicial dictatorship?
I ask
no, I don't.
That you exit the stage?
yes, so that I can.
Are we going to have the amendments at the level of parliament?
By the way, after this, I go back to, after the meeting, I will be heading to Naivasha, Nakuru County.
Right.
Tomorrow we are in Ndaragwa County. We were in Kisumu, Kakamega, we were in Eldoret, we were in Singishu, we were in Turkana, we were in Garissa to do public participation on constitutional amendment on Article 152 and I think 179. And what are we trying to do? Get members of parliament appointed as ministers, get MCAs appointed into the county executive. And I can tell you, across the country, we have not received any assistance. It is, in fact,
why
what
wouldn't
we
you
were
have taken
told,
that route from the word go?
because there are many ways of amending the constitution.
Okay, and so if this
there
one
is a
fails,
popular initiative,
okay.
there is a parliamentary initiative. Ours is not, if this fails. The parliamentary initiative was started before the BBI.
Yes.
So it's not because BBI did not succeed. We have been at it. There is another constitutional amendment that we already have that is waiting for the second reading and the third reading. This one is allowing presidential candidate to get on the nomination list.
Before you go, BABA acknowledges that reggae will be on after next year's general election. So we'll have an election?
I don't know. We have to. You see, what the judges said is that anything IEBC did not have quorum. They had no reason to have done anything, and all that they had done before the quorum is null and void. And there is somebody in court. I have seen a petition already in court. Somebody asking, can you then nullify all the by-elections that were done by IEBC?
Yes.
Can you also nullify anything that had been done by IEBC in terms of preparation for 2022? If those orders are given, and there's no reason why they should not be given, because that is what the Court of Appeal said, then it means that we have to start afresh preparing for 2022 elections.
And you will not allow
again,
this gentleman to react to your statements before
allow
you
me
go?
not to, because he's not reacting to me. He's not reacting, he's just informing
they have rights
the
to
debate.
also weigh in on
and
that.
I have no problem with any position they
Please,
take. They are honorable members.
One minute for Farah and 1 minute.
members.
It's
I call the shots here, Mheshimiwa.
It's okay, I will not want to force him to stay. But I'm sure you will hear later what I'm saying. But let me say two things. Number one, there's something that has crossed my mind about this topic, this idea, your earlier question about the style of campaign. So if the deputy president knows that there will be chaos in that place, should he go or should he not go? You know, what has reminded me is sometimes you may not understand until you have been subjected to that kind of mistreatment.
So probably it's the first time.
2 weeks ago, I was subjected to that kind of treatment. I had a meeting in my house of only 10 people, 10 youths. All of them were wearing masks. All of them were keeping social distance. Yeah. So I was very sure that I was not breaking any law. But a contingent of police came and broke my meeting of only 10 people. The next day, again, they came back. They came back because somebody lied to them that I'm holding another meeting again. But there was nobody. I was alone with the press. So sometimes it is painful when you're going through it. It's easier for somebody else to say, hey, why can't the deputy president not go there?
Right.
But when you are feeling the pain, it is very painful.
You will understand.
Let me say something about the Supreme Court. You know,
what do you want to say about the COVID and the way Olympics have been held? And the way they are doing the football.
I will tell you, I have no doubt in my mind that this is a COVID time. I have no doubt in my mind that we must observe. COVID is real. I have no doubt in my mind that COVID is real. We must go through the 3 basic protocols. We must keep distances, number 1. Number 2, we must wash our hands. Number 3, we must wear our masks. And I have no doubt in my mind that this is not the time to hold big meetings, to have crowds, because then you become a super spreader. And as I said, no single life should be lost.
Yeah.
No single life should be lost because I want big.
I know Mheshimiwa wants to exit. Honorable Farah Maalim, before we come back.
No, but I have not answered on the...
Do you want to say anything on the Supreme Court?
Yes. Let me say something very quickly on the Supreme Court. You know, Linda, I think 3 weeks ago, when I was here with Mheshimiwa, just before the ruling of the Court of Appeal came, he asked me a question and I responded. I said, it will be very difficult. I do not know how the Court of Appeal, what interpretation it will give to Section 257 to justify or to allow the president be considered as a Wanjiku. That's exactly what the Court of Appeal ruled. I also said, on the powers of the president, it is 50-50. So I want to tell you that maybe my predictions were correct. Let me tell you again now my predictions about this coming Supreme Court ruling. You see, the Attorney General has not appealed so that he can bring back BBI. No. There's no appeal to bring back BBI.
Yeah.
So for practical purposes, Reggae has stopped until maybe after elections.
All right.
What the Attorney General is asking is interpretation on the basic structure, number one. Number two, on whether the president can really be sued or not while he's in office. And number three is for IPC to give meaning to what Kioni said. So if IPC, with lack of quorum, everything they did was illegal, then what about all these decisions they have made and these procedures they have laid in place in preparation for 2022?
Fair enough.
Here, I would expect the Supreme Court, and I know why Kioni is very interested on point number one, on basic structure. You see, the Kioni bill, which Kioni is pursuing, that will allow ministers to be appointed from Parliament, in a way touches on the basic structure. Do you know why? Because...
On what is called the basic structure?
Yes.
Because we don't have...
You don't even...
Can I finish?
Okay, yes.
Can I finish? Now, if you go by the Court of Appeal interpretation of the basic structure, it says the basic structure lays down the foundation of the Constitution. So it is the basic structure that tells us, the Constitution that tells us that Kenya will be a presidential system, a pure presidential system, which means if you are an elected member of Parliament, if you are a member of the legislature, you cannot play any role in the executive. Okay? If you are a member of the judiciary, you cannot play any role in the executive. Now, when you appoint a minister who is an elected member of Parliament to become a member of the executive, then you have changed the basic structure of a presidential system. Then you have gone to an hybrid system. That is why the likes of my brother Kioni will want the Supreme Court to disallow the Court of Appeal's ruling on interpretation of the basic structure so that this bill can go through. Because so long as the Supreme Court, if the Supreme Court allows the Court of Appeal ruling to stand, then anybody can go to court and seek the court's nullification of this bill.
Not just this bill.
Okay.
Make it global. It means that you cannot ever amend the Constitution without asking the courts to tell you
not exactly.
Okay.
That is extreme.
All right.
Yes, that is asking the court to tell you what is basic structure.
Okay.
Without, in other words, judiciary has taken over the work of legislating.
No, Kioni, let me finish my point.
They took it away from Wajiko. They took it away from Wajiko.
You have allowed Kioni to take my time.
The thing that is left for us is to call in the army to dissolve the Constitution.
Proceed, Mheshimiwa, so that you can allow him to go.
Yes, my final point on IBC, I am a very liberal lawyer, and I'm a very good lawyer. I have a very good grasp of most of these things. And I believe there is value in IPC, or the Attorney General, on the Supreme Court, so that the Supreme Court can find relief, so that somehow some of the activities of IPC, whether they were quarried or not, can be legitimized. Because if we legitimize everything that IPC has done when there were only 3 commissioners. Then we are going back to a conundrum. We are throwing ourselves back into a very confused state.
Right.
So there may be meaning in them going to the Supreme Court, so that the Supreme Court...
cherry picking.
Okay, that's cherry picking, evidently.
Cherry picking. You want them to have quorum.
You see the reason why I wanted you here.
You want them to have quorum when they have when they are looking at the
elections,
and they have no quorum when they are looking at signatures.
Okay.
That is not good, Roy. That is conmanship.
Yes, Honorable Farah, Maalim. And make it brief so that Kioni can step out.
I want Kioni to stay until... Look, all the 3 of us are legal minds. All of us are lawyers.
Yes.
And it's important for one to understand what exactly is basic structure. And let me tell you, the case, the landmark case that was done in India, which is called the Kasavananda
case.
Bharati case.
I have a meeting.
They were very specific. One thing is there's no constitution anywhere in the world, including the Indian constitution, that has got a basic structure embedded in it. As an article of the Constitution itself. But when they listed the structures of what they call the basic structure in the Constitution that cannot be amended by the legislature. And those are the supremacy of the Constitution, unity and sovereignty of the country itself, democratic and republican form of government. As a democracy, you can say we'll have a military government or we'll have something else. The federal character of the Constitution. In this case, ourselves, we do not have a federation. We have what we call the counties, or basically the devolution itself. Secular character of the Constitution. And this is one of the reasons why I have a serious problem with our deputy president. He goes out there and he says, Kenya is a Christian country, is a Christian nation. And we have no apologies to make. You know, basically trying to appeal to that in a very cheap fashion. The secular character of the Constitution, the separation of powers, and the individual freedom. The individual freedom is in the Bill of Rights. Now, tell me where in this basic structure is there something to do with the manner in which the Constitution itself has to be changed for purposes of such things as the government coming from Parliament? The government, as opposed to coming from outside, which is what Kioni is pushing for right now, which frankly, I don't think can be part of the basic structure of any constitution. There are areas, what you call the 35% or 40%, whatever you want to devolve, the current constitution itself accommodates that.
And there lies our problem, Farah, if you allow me. Because you see, the issue is that what is then the eventual basic structure? From time to time, we'll be required to go to court. What has the courts done? Usurped the legislative authority of Parliament. It's a very serious thing.
No, but let me say something very quickly before Anani says.
Can I just
I took it from Farah.
Maangi, give me a moment.
Okay.
Parliament has got an unfettered right to legislate, including legislating laws that are unconstitutional. The only time that the courts can interfere is when that matter is brought to court, and then the courts then shoot it down as unconstitutional in the process of corroboration. But for the courts, look, these courts of ours are Manamba courts. Let me be honest with you.
Oh.
They are bad, really, and something needs to be done in these courts, because these people, our judges out there, up to the Supreme Court itself is a crap of a court. Let me tell you, it's the most corrupt court anyway. But I can say my hats off for the High Court as well as the Court of Appeal. They have taken this issue and have come out of it in a very significant manner. But as to then the definition of what is the basic structure in our case, what are those basic structures of the Constitution that cannot be amended by legislature, that must be subjected to a popular vote? We need to come to that, because the Bill of Rights was never touched in the BBI. The Bill of Rights was never touched.
Right.
The supremacy of the Constitution itself was never touched. We touched the supremacy of the Constitution through what you call the doctrine of necessity in 2008. We enacted an act of law which was superior to the court, the National Court. I'm sure Kioni remembers that very well.
Yes,
which was superior to the Constitution.
Yes.
So the supremacy of the Constitution now has not been touched through the BBI. We have not touched any of the things, the nature of what you call the devolution itself, which is not federal in our case, but it's a devolution. We did not say that the country is not going to be a republic or it's going to be a kingdom. You know, we did not say that we will coronate Farah, Maalim or Kioni as the kings of this country, and then we did not touch that. We're still democratic, it's still Republican. We did not touch the
Can I say something before I finish this?
Yes.
We did not touch the secular aspect of this, and through BBI there was nothing touched as far as the secular is concerned. The separation of power is still there, and the Bill of Rights was never touched. So in a sense, even if you go back to the basic structure in our case, even if you have to superimpose what they did in India to ours now, then you will see that there was none of those was touched.
You know, you don't want Kioni never to come back here.
Yes, you don't want Kioni never to come back.
The only thing I do find a lot of credit in is two things. One, the delimitation of constituencies, which essentially cannot be touched within that. No any other body or institution can deal with that before you amend the actual IEBC law. You know, if there was an article that was going to amend the IEBC, you know, as far as, because you cannot have a constitution that contradicts itself. That was a problem as far as I'm concerned, and it was never. But for purposes of the ease of services for government to come from Parliament, for the creation of additional offices at the executive level, I don't think those things are in any way.
Okay.
Linda, let me say something. You know, there is a misconception, there is a misunderstanding among very many Kenyans that the Court of Appeal and the High Court ruled there are sections of the Constitution that cannot be changed. That is not true. What the High Court and the Court of Appeal said is that there are certain sections that are so important to our country, that are so basic, that for them to be amended, you need a more stringent process. You need to involve everybody. You need to do civic education. Any part can be, Parliament can change any part. Any part of our Constitution can be amended. But the basic parts of our Constitution can only be amended with very stringent processes. Now that's what we keep on ignoring. The Court of Appeal never said that you cannot amend this Constitution. You can amend any part of the Constitution. But if you're going to amend that part of the Constitution that says that this country will be called Kenya, then you must involve every Kenyan.
And you allow me then to tell him that...
Just let me finish.
But that was not there.
Let me
finish. No article that was renaming Kenya.
So what I am saying is that, you know, these supremacy wars between the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary have been there from time immemorial. Right after independence in America, there was a case called Madison vs. Madbley. This case came up to determine who should be the final arbiter, who should be the final decision maker, where the legislators, members of Parliament, who said it is us who have been elected. So what we say must remain final, especially the Senate. We had the executive who said, I've been elected by, at that time we were on 13 states.
Right.
But all the 13 states show my word is final. But in the case of Madison vs. Madbley, the Supreme Court ruled that for fairness, all matters must go to a neutral arbiter. And the neutral arbiter is the Supreme Court.
Okay.
And the Supreme Court becomes a neutral arbiter because the judges are trained in law.
All right.
No.
I will not allow. And one of the things is...
let's allow Kioni to speak so I can
Deputy
exit.
Speaker,
Yes.
you know you guided us during 10th Parliament, and I tell you, if history's books will be written, that's one of the bunges that will be written as having achieved a lot. Achieved much more than what was achieved by the two parliaments after that. And it was because of the wise leadership by the Deputy Speaker and also Speaker Marende. And I want to tell you this, because we seem to be missing out. We copied a lot from the US among other constitutions.
Yes.
And you have now given us examples of the US again.
Yes.
We are in Kenya.
Yes.
We have our own unique situations. Yes. We do not want theories. Don't feed us on theories. We want practical solutions to our problems, and we have 42 communities in this country. And we need to live with one another. We have those religious diversities. And I remember the debate we had on a very thing you may think is simple, on the player that we have in the standing orders, guided by Farah, as from the Muslim, as ourselves from the Christian side. And we came up with that player that accommodates both the Muslims and the Christians. And
secular prayer.
I'm telling you, these are things we agreed as politicians, and it may look like a small thing, but that was enough to tell us to hell with this constitution. If you cannot recognize my faith, I don't even bother. I don't want you to tell me about those silly things on the basic structure. This is a document that's supposed to solve our problem. And we do not want theories imported from media, others imported from the US and the difficulties they had. We have our own unique situation. And I want to tell you this. If you are in this country, you say that politicians have no role in the thinking of the way our constitution which will continue being shaped. If you tell us that we cannot sit as politicians and as the court, you block the thinking of politicians. I am telling you, it is going to be easy to say to hell with this constitution.
Remember, the petitioners were equally largely politicians. I
am telling you, listen to me, because I want to come to what Farah has mentioned. And this issue of basic structure is actually telling us we have eternal crosses. We have things like the Bible. You don't touch until Jesus comes back. I don't believe in that at all. In a country that is dynamic like ours, a country that we want to take to another level, I think it is the most naive thing to start saying, don't touch here, don't touch here. You cannot make a law that then you cannot unmake. I mean, that is really something that cannot be there. The three arms of government will always function well if there is complementarity. We worked with, one of the things that drove the 2010 constitution was the fact that Kenyans said parliament has become dictators. If they want to increase their salaries, they increase. That aspect alone influenced a lot of saying you cannot, you cannot, you cannot. What are we now seeing? Where we thought parliament was doing, the judiciary has come in to dictate on this. And I'm saying this, and I can tell you, it is not going to be an easy issue. Farah has mentioned one thing that tells you how crucial members of parliament will be. He's talking about the amendment of the work of IEBC in determining constituencies. And constituencies is one of the very difficult things that we have not dealt with. In fact, if you ask me, it is the elephant in the room. We have 27 constituencies that are supposed to be scrapped by IEBC if nothing is done. And they will be scrapped because the formula in the constitution is there, and it says you must have 164,000 people or 30% less. Ndaragwa does not have, and comes in with another 40 constituencies. If you are going to tell Kenyans that your constituency is gone, you think they'll go home telling you that you have a constituency, you have a constitution? No. Tell me.
Ndaragwa has less?
Ndaragwa has less than 164.
Ruto has more?
Ruto has 500,
yes.
But it is worse to tell people you have no constituency than being told you are big. We need to
reduce.
So 40 constituencies in more than 20 counties in this country are going to be scrapped by IEBC. It is at that point you actually realize we have no business with IEBC. That is how constitutions are overthrown. It starts that simple. And I am telling
this
you,
is personal.
Level of Ndaragwa.
Can I just say something?
So everything starts with the person.
Yes.
The personal.
I'm agreeing with you.
The personal you are seeing is 40,000 voters, 100,000 people in Ndaragwa.
Yes.
And the same in Lamu West, the same in Vihiga, the same in Siakago, the same in the other places. You will have a team of 200 million people who will be saying, to hell with this constitution. Why do I need a constitution that takes services away from me? So this is not a joke.
We can't have 200 million.
Kenya, and I'm telling you, I don't know what you are trying to say. You know some of these things, eh? Let me, I allowed them. Can you, they are crowding me out. I need to finish. And
you really want,
and I want to finish. And I'm saying that is an issue. What he is saying, which I respect, what I'm saying is very important. the solution to what Farah has said and what I'm saying will not come from the courts. It will come from politicians. If the politicians don't have that opportunity to come up to a conclusion, which then is clothed in law, if we are denied that opportunity, it is actually at that point to say, then you people secede. We are seceding.
Okay.
Go your way. We want to have our own country. That's how secession starts. If you cannot accommodate me in your setting, then I have a right to remain in another country, and you cannot stop me. We will fight.
It's technically what...
And that is what happens. But let me say now the other thing. Popular initiative, which is what we are told must be dealt with when you are dealing with the basic structure. It must be done by the Wajiko. The Wajiko was also told, for you to undertake that popular initiative, you must do something called civic education.
Yeah.
Yes? You must do public participation. And you must call constituents assembly. Now, civic education in this country, what does that mean? When you have an amendment that is contained in this book or in this bill, you must print enough copies for all Kenyans to say, I have read. Nimeona, I have read and accept with it. Tell me which Wajiko will do that. You must have a public participation. I'm going to Naivasha now for public participation. I will be in Kinagoba and will be now the country. It costs a minimum of 2 million shillings for the county to carry out a public participation on any amendment they are doing within the county. Do it 47 times. You are looking at 100 million plus. How many of the Wajikos can afford that? When you talk of a constituency assembly, we brought 100 people from every constituency or less. You are bringing them to Bomas. Wajiko is supposed to do that. You know what that means? You are actually telling Wajiko to look for a donor to fund this money.
But why then did we make adjustments?
Just a minute.
Okay.
If you want to make adjustment, go
because
to the
because my question then would be, it is there, it is enshrined in the Constitution. If
you want to make adjustment, you go to the Supreme Court.
And
they are
then,
the ones who have made the
and then
ruling.
they're going to challenge this, all right.
We had it in the Constitution, we thought. They have made it now difficult in the Supreme Court, in the Court of Appeal. And I'm telling you how unpracticable the judgment was. When you talk of that, what you are now telling us is to call in donors to help Wajiko undertake this initiative.
Okay.
We said during the 2010 Constitution, under the management of Farah and Marende, that it is criminal, it's actually treasonable for any Kenyans to use money given from outside the country to come and make a constitutional law in our country. Because you are allowing another foreigner to determine how you govern yourself as a country. So if we rock out donors from helping the Wajiko is finished. One of the most innovative things in our Constitution was killed by the Court of Appeal. And the liberal lawyers in the name of Deputy Governor here cannot see through this.
We're being treated into so much confusion in this case as common Mwananchi, Honorable Farah Maalim. Let's face it. And now when we listen to how, Honorable Jeremiah Kioni articulates this, does it then whitewashes the importance of all these stages? Public participation, public, assembly at the level of the counties, having this.
Yeah, it's important to have the public participation. It's there in our articles. But having said that, it's important for one thing to become very clear. Even in the matter of Madison versus Marbury, and I really want to simplify it very much. It was the origination of that concept itself, or rather the conflict itself, was because of a political action that Adams, who was that time the president of the Republic of the US, but who was not doing very well with his vice president, who was Jefferson, but lost in an election against his vice president. But before he left office, he wanted to pack the judiciary with his own judges, which of course he did. He appointed them, they called them, I think, the justices of the circuit courts, and they were also the justices of peace. And because he had a friendly, what they call Senate, the Senate moved very fast again to approve that. But he had a final action to do, which was to deliver that himself and to sign it as the president. His term came to an end because he was doing this in a rush within the last few days of his presidency. There are few of them who could not make it to the final ascension of the president himself and the delivery. But they went to court, they expected that to be done and the court said, yes, you have a right, yes, it's illegal for that to be stopped, to be delivered, yes, but we do not have powers to direct the President Jefferson this time.
Yeah.
Sign that thing.
Yes.
This now comes exactly in line with what the judges of the High Court and the Judicial Service Commission in Kenya had a problem with the president, our president, in assenting to the 41 judges. If he says no, he decides not to do it, there's nothing you can do about it. It's a crisis, yes, nonetheless, but it's a problem. You can only go back again to another, what you call ADR, Alternative Dispute Resolution Mechanisms. But legally, you cannot force the president and you cannot force parliament. Now, I have seen myself in cases where somebody is elected, somebody tries to run to court to get an order to be delivered to the speaker not to swear in somebody. You can't do that. You can't do that. Parliament, the parliamentary work itself cannot be hindered by any institution, the courts or otherwise. So basically what I'm trying to say, and what Kioni has put in very well, is that even within the basic structure, which by the way is not anywhere accommodated in our courts, there's a lacuna in that basic structure itself. Even in the Indian case itself was not there in the constitution, but of course the Indian, in their wisdom, they came out with that and said there are certain aspects of the constitution that cannot be touched. Our system has always been a hodgepodge, or what you call a marriage of a parliamentary system and a presidential system. We were not a pure parliamentary system before. We became a republic after what do you call before we were a dominion, and the Queen was the titular head of the country, and Kenyatta was the prime minister. But after 1 year, we became a republic. Kenyatta became a president. We did not change our constitution in any way that time. We still had a president, but who was nonetheless a member of parliament. A member of parliament who was elected from Gatundu. And even Kibaki was a member of parliament. Moi was a member of parliament, progressively until, of course, Uhuru is the first person who was not a member of parliament. Even Kibaki was a member of parliament for Udaya. He had to be sworn in as a member of parliament first. So there are certain aspects of our constitution that needs. Now, we tried to go for this kind of a pure parliamentary system without the other structures of the government and the system itself not being done in tandem. So what Kioni is telling you is that let's go back to that kind of a marriage. That kind of a marriage, even if it's going to be through an administrative edict. We're having it right now. We have what we call a de facto prime minister. Matiang'i is the de facto prime minister, for information. Tomorrow, you could appoint him as the chief minister. But he does not have the mandate of the people. He does not have the mandate of the Kenyan people. He's not somebody who's elected. He's somebody appointed. So in a sense, we have seen how after 10 years of having this constitution, we have seen certain issues that are not working with the constitution. And it's important, for example, for us to proceed right now without changing that basic structure of the presidency itself. You leave the president as he is. He's still going to be popularly elected. But if you say that the cabinet should come from parliament, you can create additional offices. I don't think you need to go to the people to get a referendum through that. To have what
it's technically what the people, this gentleman was saying from the word go, Tim Tangatanga was saying from the word go, or the people who are proponents, who are not proponents of the, the BBI bill were saying from the word go, as we close.
Yeah, but
yes.
And do answer this. We didn't have to go to the people.
Yes.
We went to the people to achieve the same result that we can achieve with Punge.
Yes.
As a leader.
Who appreciates the voice of the people.
A person who appreciates the people and the cost that it takes.
Okay.
Would ideally say, nyinyi mlikosea lakini tuendelee mbele. I mean, the fact that hauna chakula na mimi niko na chakula, ya nini umwage yangu, ati tuende turudi sasa kwa chaba sisi wote.
All right, there you go.
Linda, I like the way you have reminded me. That's exactly what we've been saying all through.
No.
That's what we've been saying. No, you are your time. Let me have my time now.
We're closing.
Kioni, my brother Kioni.
We'll come to you, Honorable Farah.
No, I didn't speak.
No, it's okay. You said that we do not have to go and borrow practices from other countries. And by that I think I understand him to mean that we don't have to follow the American system or the Indian system. The Kasafalanda case is an Indian case. The Madison case is an American case. You know, Kenya is not an island. We now live in a global village. We are all interconnected. So we do not have to reinvent the wheel. When the wheel has already been invented elsewhere, we don't have to reinvent a new one.
We need to. We are
We
in
do
Kenya.
not have to reinvent a new one. We can follow best practices. And best practices world over say that when there's a basic structure of a constitution, those 3 or 4 parts of the constitution, especially one that calls Kenya country, this country will be called Kenya. One that says clearly that this country has the following boundaries. One that says that this country will be a democratic country. One that says, you see, if you remove those kind of provisions, then the president can one day declare himself the attorney general. Or the president can say, I'm a lawyer, and therefore won't become the Supreme Court of Supreme Court.
And don't feed us on propaganda.
Just a minute.
I know you are good at it.
This is
You are very good at it being the taga wing.
So we must make sure that we protect the basic structure so that the basic provisions of the Constitution are protected from being exploited. If you leave it open, one day the president will declare himself the Attorney General. One day the president will declare himself the Supreme Court. So we must protect these basic structures.
As we close.
And you can't allow him to get away with the matter.
Okay.
Because you see, that's the propaganda that the Tanga wing has used for 4 years. Telling people things until now, they have radicalized a section of Mount Kenya, and I can tell you, we were able to undo it in Kiaba in 3 weeks. We will undo it, and I can tell you the enthusiasm that was there before was not there this time when they were at Narumoro. And you can actually see how good they are in propaganda. It's like they went to Romania, all of them. But I say this in closing. As you come to campaign in our region, in the BBI proposal, the amount of resources that was going to come to our areas, and I have just picked out our area because everybody has an interest in his own area, was an additional 53 billion shillings. When you come to our region, you need to tell us why on earth did you object to our region getting 53 billion. If you have no answer, stay away. I'm telling you in good time. This, we are taking it to the people. When you come to our region, I want you to tell us, how is it that you are going to sort out the disappearing of some 9 constituencies from the map of Kenya? We had a solution in the BBI. You must tell us what you intend to do, and it cannot wait for elections. It must be now. If you have no solution, stay away. And finally, in the whole of these things, I have one conclusion to make. This maneno of the Court of Appeal, High Court, and Supreme Court. I now know why those countries that we are trying to copy from have always insisted that you never take law as a first degree. You are actually a very poor lawyer if you have only law degree to your credit. You are a poor judge if you have law degree to your credit. That is why you've realized some of the degree holders who have actually done degrees later through the parallel programs are able to appreciate things from a global point. Because law that is taught to lawyers alone is the black letter. You read and look at the president, you look at another case in India, another one, and you forget that you are applying it in a unique country called Kenya. That you need more than just the black letter to help us move together. Law is supposed to help us navigate ourselves to a better place. But it's not just a question of interpreting things and quoting the articles of the Constitution. My final advice is anybody in the judiciary, you must go and do a degree in philosophy, go and do a
political
degree
science,
in sociology, political science,
and economics.
And you need those degrees for us in future to allow you to sit in front there and arbitrate of our issues. Anything less than that, you are not adequate.
Yes, Honorable Farah Maalim, I would have loved to ask a couple of questions, but we don't have time. Let's read this one as you also respond to it. Ras G. Mbogwa says, the big question is that can the current parliament be trusted with the level of sycophancy they portray? As you close.
To be honest to you, the current parliament, if you ask me how many members I know out of that parliament, they're just too few. I mean, Parliament has lost its flair. It has lost its you know, the beauty and what it demonstrated for all those years. When Kioni,
there is more psychophants at UDA.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, you see what is happening right now, and we've gone back. We've gone back very much. I agree with him. I agree with him fully. We've gone back more to the Moi era, or rather the Kanu era. I'm sorry to say Moi era because it was the Kanu era politics in which resources that the supreme ruler in the country has at his disposal always made a difference, and Parliament was essentially there to go every Thursday to be given something, and members of Parliament are more loyal to the structure of the system, or rather system leadership that was endowed with a lot of resources than it was to the country, and the fact that appointments could be made easy. So this Parliament, as he puts it, for example, the UDA members, you can see a massive psychophancy that has no logic in there. I agree with Kioni very much on the fact that our lawyers need to study much more than just the A's and B's of the laws that we have in the country here. Just administrative law, constitutional law, and the rest of it, we need to get in the states and in the so-called the Anglophone jurisdictions. There is always the object and the spirit. What the people who at the time crafted this law had in mind. What necessitated this? You see, today we're not even looking at why do we have this kind of pieces of legislations. What were the things that pushed us to make those kind of legislations? What were the lacunas? What were the vacuums? What were the problems that we were enduring those days? And this was supposed to cure it. We don't do that. We just look at the letter of the law itself, and we need to go back. The people have to study and understand the philosophy of the law itself, as he puts it. And I agree with you. Law should become a second degree in this country. Anytime. You must change the system we have right now of training lawyers. Because they've just become tradesmen. They're just technicians out there. Many of the judges who are out there were probably failed what they call court lawyers themselves. And we have a problem. We need a lot more philosophy into the determination of matters than we do have now.
Is this not a scenario where it does not favor you and so it appears like it's not legit, but when it favors you, it is?
No, it favors, I mean, if we're going to, all of us, I've told you, we are legal minds, basically. We've studied law, and we're looking at that broad spectrum, look at the manner in which the administration of justice in the country is being done, and matters of law are being debated. There is no depth in it. There's very little. By the way, I was happy even in the last rulings, in as far as those judges of the High Court and the Court of Appeal did a lot of research. And even if they took a lot of jurisdictions from outside our country and the rest of it, you could see there was a lot of intellectual inputs into that, not just activism. A few of them, like the one who said that the fact that the president can be sued or the president can be prosecuted was in my opinion a little bit of overreaching that. So judicial activism, but a much more of, or the main body of those rulings were, in my opinion, very, very well researched. But the point I'm trying to say is that every time you see some sections of the political class in the country objecting to BBI, and I want Maangi to listen to this very well. Maangi,
in the best interest of time, sir,
because they don't want the deputy president to have all the powers that imperial presidency we have today, unfettered and diluted, to have it so that they can exercise it on Kenyans and they exercise it on the rest of us. And that is a nightmare for me, because I know, we know one another. We've been in politics together, me and Kioni, the deputy president, and many people know one another very personally, and we know the dangers that this country is going to be exposed to.
Okay.
When you give power, when you give absolute power to an angry person, then expect the worst.
You started.
All right, thank you so much. You see, Honorable...
my final.
All right, gentlemen.
My final.
Make it very big, all right.
I have number one, maybe, both Maalim and Kioni, who are my colleagues in the law, I've said maybe we need deeper training in Kenya. Maybe I have a deep understanding of the law because I trained both in Kenya, Nairobi University, and also trained in the US. And so I kind of have a very deep and comparative understanding of these systems. Yeah. But that notwithstanding, let us go back to the basics. I want to agree completely with Kioni. When Kioni says, I'm going now back to the basics, that in Laikibia,
Final remarks.
yes, those are my final remarks.
Yes.
In Laikibia, the Tugans and the Samburus are panning down houses belonging to the Kikuyus and the Kisis. We cannot allow that as a country. Kenya is one unitary state, even if we have devolved systems, but we are one country. And we must be allowed to settle anywhere we want to be. It's not acceptable that a certain section of Kenya is chasing away. We saw this in Molo in 1992. We saw this in Naivasha and Kiambaa in 2007. Now we are beginning seeing preparations of that. We will not allow this. As a country, we must come together and put a stop to this. Kikuyus, Kisis, Kalenjins, Luos, everybody else must be allowed to settle anywhere they find place or peace in this country. Nobody should intimidate the other.
Don't you think the same way everybody should be allowed to go and campaign in every ground as we close?
We have Thwake Dam that is under construction. I ask, where is the DP? We have the Isiolo Marsabit Road being tarmacked. Where is the DP? We have the Eldoret, Kitale, Turukana, Kakuma Road again being tarmacked. Where is the DP? We have Keno Marwa Road being tarmacked. Where is the DP? We have the bus park going on in Kenya. Where is the DP? We have the express superhighway that is under construction, Mombasa, from Jomo Kenyatta International Airport to the city of. Where is the DP? We have this Limuru Road. We have all the other development projects that are going on in the country. So it's the use of track record to. For the 4 years that he has been there, and we can see development. The scorecard. And roadside statements that you know they are being done is not enough. Where are you? Where were you?
What has not been tarmacked, to show.
You had an opportunity to show what could be done under your management. You chose to bolt out. You can now try and jump through the window.
And so the
these
track
things
record
have been
of the
done by
president will be used to shoot down
These things have been done by Uhuru single-handedly with a section of the cabinet that was on his side.
Okay.
Nobody in Tagatanga.
Not with Right Honorable Raila Odinga?
No, even not Raila Odinga.
Okay.
Raila Odinga gave us peace and unity in the country to help these things happen, which is very important.
Okay.
But these things have been achieved by Uhuru. The DP should not try to claim any credit from them. It is too late in the day. Too late in the day. Give us your scorecard.
Which one is this that has not been tarmacked, Honorable Farah Maalim, as we close?
Farah has many he wants tarmacked, just like Ndaragwa.
Well, none of them, neither Uhuru nor the deputy president has gone out there to launch a road from Bodogashe to Wajir to Mandera, Garissa to Liboi, Garissa to Ijara. None. We are living in Stone Age there.
Gentlemen, Honorable Farah Maalim, former Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly and Deputy Chair of the leader, that is, of Wiper Party, Joash Maangi, Deputy Governor, Kisii County, and lastly, Honorable Jeremiah Kioni, Member of Parliament, Ndaragwa. We close it at that, gentlemen. Asante Sana. We are sorry for chewing your time, though it appears like you really liked it all the same.
I've been trying to...
Thank you so much. We close over... Oh my God, we close this segment and we cross over to a different one, yes, on Matters Health after this break.